with a little interaction. And it's Balaram's appearance day, so hopefully we have some people online, and we have a very nicely socially distanced group here, which is appreciated. Now, one of the things I thought to do is to see how many names of Balaram our assembled devotees and the people online can come up with. And one of the reasons for asking has to do with the topic I'd like to speak about this evening. On Sunday, there was an address to the Potomac congregation on Balaram's appearance, and this morning there was a discussion with the group of devotees from China on Balaram's appearance day, and both times there seemed to be a lot of interest and energy on the puzzling way that Balaram showed some partiality to Duryodhana. So that's going to be our topic this evening. And one of the places that it shows partiality from Balaram to Duryodhana and Duryodhana towards Balaram is from Garga Samhita, where Duryodhana asks a sage, I forget his name, to, if he would be so kind, is to recite the 1,000 names of Balaram. In Mahabharata, there's Vishnu Sahasranam, and in Garga Samhita, there's the Balaram Sahasranam. Because we find in the 10th canto that Duryodhana addresses Balaram as Bhagavan. He saw him as the personality of Godhead, and he saw him as Guru. So let's see, raise your hand, don't just speak up, but raise your hand, and people online can also send in something online. Let's see if we can get a nice little list of names of Balaram. Who would like to offer what besides Balaram? Back there?
Sankarshana.
Huh? Sankarshana, fantastic. Haladhar. Our young devotees back there. Haladhar, the meaning? He holds a plow. That's the meaning, Haladhar. Haladhara Rupa from Jayadev Goswami's description of Balaram. Haladhara Rupa. Another name. Balaram's another name. Rohini Nandan, the son of Rohini. Another name. Anything online? Anyone? Anybody in the room? Yes. Dauji. Very good. Especially if you're from Braj. Dauji is a very popular name. What else?
I know there's one. Rohini Nandan has been.
Rohini Nandan has been said.
Yeah.
I know there's one related to Duryodhana, but I don't remember the actual.
Duryodhana Guru. That's a name of Balaram in that 1,000 names of Balaram. What else? Yes. Rama. Very good. That's one of the names given directly by Gargamuni. Anything else? Oh. I'll let you ponder a little bit, make you a little bit nervous or something. They're pretty straightforward. Baladev. There's another Bala something. What's the other Bala something? Bala starts with a B. Balabhadra. Balabhadra.
Couple of names.
Online this Pooja Singh Mataji says Revati Kanta.
Revati Kanta.
Amara Mataji says Revati Ramana.
Revati Ramana. What does Revati Ramana mean? The beloved of Revati. Very good. Okay. So he has many names. He has a lot more names. Well, let's do this. Just like one of Krishna's names is Keshi Sudana because he killed Keshi. So then, what are some of the demons that Balaram killed, and then we just put a Sudana or one of those endings on the end? Dhenukasura. So Dhenuka Sudana. And Pralamba Sudana. Huh? Dudvida Sudana. Okay. Okay, so that's good. Now, next interactive session, the persons online can also join in, please. What are some examples that illustrate, at least apparently, that Balaram favored Duryodhana? What's some examples of, apparently, Balaram favoring Duryodhana?
So at the end when Bhima is about to kill Duryodhana, at that time Balaramji comes back and he chastises Bhima that how can you attack Duryodhana like that, breaking the rules or...
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if our people online heard, but that's okay. Duryodhana, when his legs, his thighs were broken, Balaram took Duryodhana's side and accused Bhima of acting wrongly. Of course, it was Krishna who told him to do what he did. So the transgression of the rules went to Krishna.
He wanted to give Subhadra in marriage.
Here's a microphone.
Balaram wanted to give Subhadra in marriage to Duryodhana.
Yeah, Balaram wanted to give Subhadra, the younger sister, in marriage to Duryodhana. Yes,
Balaram taught martial arts to Duryodhana.
he is specifically fighting with a club.
Yes.
Do you know the circumstance?
I do not recall.
Here's
that
the
one.
circumstance. It's in Krishna book in 10th canto. When the Shamataka jewel resulted in Satrajit being killed, you know where Krishna was when that happened?
He was in Hastinapur.
He was in Hastinapur. You know what was the circumstance of his being in Hastinapur? It was the so-called funeral of Kunti and the Pandavas. He knew, but he went to attend their funeral. So when he was out of town, that's when the Shamataka jewel event, the killing of Satrajit, happened. So Satyabhama placed her father in a vat of oil to preserve his body, sent a messenger to immediately invite Krishna to come back. Krishna came back, found out who was it that was thought to be the murderer and had the jewel? Starts with a K. Kritavarma. So Krishna pursued Kritavarma. The horse became fatigued. Krishna caught up. And he killed Kritavarma, but he didn't have the jewel. So they were so far in the vicinity, away from Dwaraka, that Balaram decided he wanted to go visit what? Mithila. And I was very surprised, and I don't have the answer, but he went to give his association to King Janak. It's right in the verse in the Bhagavatam. Now, I don't know how long King Janak lived. He must have lived a long time, or it was a typographical error, but it's right in the Sanskrit. So he went to Mithila, and it didn't say that Duryodhana stayed there the whole time that he was there, but he was there for several years, 3 years plus, and during that time he trained Duryodhana in fighting of a club. Somebody said martial arts, but specifically fighting with a club. So it looked like partiality, like he's training him up to fight against, who is he going to fight against? The Pandavas. Anything else? Partiality of Balaram to Duryodhana. It's a good long list. Here's a question. How is it, 2 questions. How is it that Subhadra is the younger sister of Krishna and Balaram? Who knows the answer? Subhadra was the younger sister of Krishna and Balaram.
She's Devaki and Vasudev's daughter.
Yeah. After Krishna was born, they had a daughter. And her name was Subhadra. Now, the second question. What is the position of Subhadra in relation to Krishna's pastimes? She has a very special position. What is that special position besides the younger sister, Subhadra? In Vrindavan, what is the position of Purnamasi? Purnamasi. What is the position of Purnamasi in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan?
Yogamaya.
She's Yogamaya. What does Yogamaya do? She arranges Krishna's pastimes. She does all kinds of nice things, like Yogamaya, we understand. Yogamaya covered Balaram during that 1 year that Krishna manifested himself as the cowherd boys and the calves. Yogamaya covered Balaram so he wouldn't recognize that's actually Krishna by the influence of Yogamaya, etc. So Yogamaya is the pastime potency of Krishna in Vrindavan. And Subhadra has a similar function outside of Vrindavan. She's Yogamaya, coming as the younger sister, which is very interesting because Subhadra was supposed to marry Duryodhana. Now, how to understand this, because this question came up twice, so I decided I'd follow in the footsteps of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can look it up later, Adi Leela, chapter 2, text 117, Adi 2, 117, where he says, or writes, that when there are topics that are somewhat controversial, one shouldn't avoid them by taking part in them, trying to clearly understand. It helps make the mind strong. So it is puzzling. Duryodhana, here's some of his discredits. he was conspiring again and again to kill especially Bhima, but then in general the Pandavas. The Bhima with the poison cake, all the Pandavas with the house of lac, and expelling them with the whole program with the gambling match. He despised them. There's a very interesting episode in Mahabharata when Krishna comes with the peace appeal. And Duryodhana makes a very grand reception arrangement. Details and details and details with arches and cut banana trees and sprinkling the road with rose water and flower petals everywhere, and the musicians and reciters of the Vedas, and creating an atmosphere of auspiciousness for Krishna's arrival. So when Krishna came to the gates of Hastinapur, Duryodhana personally went to the outside, which is etiquette, but he didn't have to do that. He did it. And he had this little talk with Krishna, welcoming him, how greatly fortunate that your auspicious presence, and all nice things. And after saying appropriate words in receiving a guest, he then said, please come and have a meal with my family. And Krishna replied, a person will eat with two reasons. One is they're hungry, and the other is they may not be hungry, but out of love they may eat anyway. And I'm not hungry. And in you I see no love. Your animosity towards the Pandavas means animosity towards me. And in you I see no love. And for that matter, in the whole of Hastinapur, there's no one who has the real quality of love except one. Vidura. So I'm going to go to the home of Vidura and take shelter there and have my meal there when it is time. So Krishna was really clear about Duryodhana. And furthermore, when Krishna started speaking to making the peace offer, and Duryodhana said what Duryodhana said, and Krishna blasted him. And Duryodhana left the assembly. And he came back, and his plan was to murder Krishna, at least capture Krishna, all his soldiers, and he was going to harm Krishna. He, for all of his regard for Balaram, how can you have regard for Balaram and not for Krishna? So is it possible that Balaram really had a friendly regard towards Duryodhana? So how do we understand it? It is puzzling, isn't it? And there are different ways of explaining, but one that I like especially is in Krishna's pastimes, sometimes Krishna would do things that are contrary, and sometimes his devotees would do things that are contrary, and Krishna liked it very much. Krishna would do things that are contrary, like his stealing butter. That was contrary. And when Mother Jasoda was speaking with the ladies in Braja, one of the things she said is, if he likes butter so much and milk products, just give it to him. And their reply was, we offer it to him, and he refuses it because he just likes to steal. And when we try to block him from stealing, he finds all these clever ways to steal. And the Acharyas describe that this is rasa. Krishna's cleverness. He enjoys cleverness. But to have cleverness, there has to be some opposition. So sometimes his devotees take the position of opposition. And in this position of opposition, Krishna has the opportunity to exercise cleverness. It's for the enjoyment of Krishna. Balaram and all the cowherd boys had nothing but Krishna in their life. So how can he take a position that's opposed to he who there's nothing but Krishna in his life? He can't. And therefore, taking a position of opposition is for Krishna's pleasure. Just like we mentioned this morning, so I'm saying it again. Sometimes, more than sometimes, the left-wing gopis, Radha and her gopi friends, they would do contrary things, talk mean or retaliatory to Krishna. They would say really heavy things. And Krishna liked it more than the right-wing gopis. He enjoys those exchanges more than the obedience of the right-wing gopis. I mean, obedience is nice, and conflict is also nice for Krishna. I mean, he doesn't have an aversion for conflict. He enjoys, especially when the conflict or the opposition is coming out of love. There's one of Jiva Goswami's books, Madhava Mahotsav, describes, among other things, a meeting between Radha and Krishna that didn't take place because Krishna was with Chandravali and he was late. So Radha sent one of her messengers to go find out what's going on. Why is Krishna late? And the messenger didn't find Krishna, but she found one of Chandravali's messengers. And there was a really haughty exchange. Your Radha is just going to have to wait. Because Krishna is now with Chandravali. So you can go back and tell Radha she's got to wait. And the messenger was disturbed and went back and told Radha what happened, and Radha became disturbed, and Radha became very angry, and Radha left. Krishna came late. The gopis gave him the sauce. Get out of here! But, we know your tricks. Get out. Where's Radha? She's gone. Get out. I mean, there was a lot of other words besides those two words. But that was basic message. So Krishna went into this enormous state of sadness. And Lalita and Vrinda become really disturbed. What's going to happen to Radha? So they get they get Purnamasi. And Purnamasi goes around looking for Radha. She can't find her. She's Yogamaya. She knows where she is. She can't find her. Finally, she finds her. And she's in a cabin talking to herself like a mad woman. Like, why do I do this? I know who he is. I know the kind of personality he is, like when she's talking to the bumblebee. But I can't take my heart away from him. So why do I speak like this? Why do I say harsh things? And Purnamasi enters, hearing Radha speak like this. And she comforts her and says, you got to come back right away. Krishna might give up his life. Krishna can't give up his life. And she becomes, then her mood changes, she comes back, and then, so Krishna decides to, that second half of the book is, she becomes the queen of Braja. Although the book is titled Madhava Mahotsav, it's the Mahotsav for Radha to become the queen of Vrindavan. You know, there's very elaborate description. She's the queen of Vrindavan. Vrindavaneshwari. So Krishna likes. And his devotees like. And although they're not thinking, oh, Krishna liked when I talked back to him, so I'll talk back to him. It's not quite like that. It's rasa. It's totally spontaneous. So Balaram is not thinking that, oh, if I take this opposition position to Krishna, he'll like it. It's not quite like that. But it's arranged by the Yogamaya potency that he does what he does. And Krishna finds clever ways to deal with the opposition. So that now, with that little introduction, I'm going to read Krishna Dharma's section of Mahabharata, where it describes Arjun's marriage with Subhadra and the opposition that he's getting a great deal of enjoyment dealing with, the opposition of his brother, Balaram. So the circumstance is, Arjuna is on a 1-year pilgrimage because he is self-appointed pilgrimage, but he made an offense, what he considered an offense, to Yudhishthira. He went into the place where Yudhishthira was with Draupadi for that 1-month period. They were supposed to be together and not disturbed by the other 4 brothers. He went to get his weapons because some cowherd boys said there were some people attacking their cows. So he got his weapons to protect them. Protect the cows and protect the cowherds and drive away the aggressors. So when he came back, he said, I came into the place where you were, I violated the instruction of our mother, so I have to purify myself. And Yudhishthira said, no. You did the right thing. It was an emergency. That was the rule, and that there's the emergency situation. So the emergency takes precedent over the rule. He said, no, I violated our mother's instruction, and I'm going to go to purify myself on pilgrimage for 1 year. And off he went, and so many things happened. So it's during that period of time, and he was going to holy places, one of which is Dwarka. The scene opens. Arjuna traveled up Bharata's western coast until he arrived at Prabhas. In the sea, near Prabhas, Krishna had constructed a city called Dwarka. Arjuna could see the splendid fortress city from a distance, shining like the sun on the horizon. It could be only reached by passing along a heavily guarded bridge. When he reached the bridge, Arjuna sent word of his arrival to Krishna, who immediately came out of the city to see his dear friend. They embraced with joy. News of Arjun's exile from Indraprastha had already reached Dwarka, and Krishna had been expecting him to arrive before the year was up. He knew that Arjuna was interested in gaining the hand of his sister Subhadra. Here's how that happened. Arjuna had heard much about the princess from Gada, Krishna's cousin, who had studied under Drona along with the Pandavas. Gada had described her as being incomparably beautiful and endowed with every womanly qualification. Just by hearing the descriptions, Arjuna's heart had become attracted. He had resolved, even then, to somehow win her as his wife, and that would forge an alliance between the Pandavas and their beloved Lord Krishna. Arjuna told Krishna about his travels to the holy places, and the Vrishni hero replied, "This is all good. Your piety and virtue are ever increasing." The Pandava prince, that's Arjuna, turned quickly to the subject of Subhadra. He asked Krishna how she might be won. Get right down to business. Krishna smiled. "This princess is worthy of you in every way, O tiger among men, but who knows what would be her decision at a Swayamvar? For a hero, the surest way to win a maiden is to carry her away by force. This is always the way of the powerful, and it is sanctioned by the Holy Scriptures." Krishna added that his brother Balaram was intent on seeing her married to Duryodhana. Even though no one else in Dwarka was very keen on this suggestion, Krishna especially did not like the idea. So here's the opposition situation. He would much prefer Arjuna to take his sister's hand, but Balaram was the city father and Krishna's elder brother, and Krishna did not want to go against his wishes. He told Arjuna to be patient. They would devise a plan. So Krishna likes the opposition opportunity with his beloved Balaram. In the meanwhile, they would spend some time together. Arjuna still had 4 months remaining of his exile. He would spend it at Dwarka. Then Krishna's plan starts to unfold. Krishna suggested that Arjuna keep his identity concealed. If he entered the city openly, he would not get a chance to see Subhadra. She lived in Balaram's palace and was never seen in public. Her first appearance would be at her marriage. If Arjuna went into the city dressed as renunciant, however, Balaram would doubtlessly invite him for meals. Krishna knew that his elder brother was fond of entertaining ascetics and sages, and also that he always arranged for Subhadra to serve them so that she might be blessed and increase her virtue. Arjuna should therefore disguise himself as a renunciant, a member of the sannyas order. No one would recognize him if he matted his hair and kept his beard, especially when he was dressed in saffron robes of a sannyasi. Then he could live in Dwarka during the coming months and await an opportunity to win the beautiful Subhadra. And Krishna's enjoying making all of this. The rainy season was just upon them, and it was customary for wandering ascetics to stay in cities till the rains had passed. Krishna went back into his city, and Arjuna waited a few more days outside before entering. Krishna's plan had sounded good. The Pandava wanted a chance to see Subhadra and also for her to see him. Pious, he did not want to steal her against her desire. If she were not attracted to him, he would leave her in peace. He tied his hair in a knot above his head and put on the dress of a renunciant. Taking up the triple-rod staff traditionally carried by Vaishnava sannyasis, those worshippers of Vishnu in the renounced order, Arjuna entered Dwarka. The unsuspecting gatekeepers allowed the ascetic to pass, folding their palms in respect as he walked by. Arjuna made his way along the huge golden bridge that spanned the ocean to the city, and which was encrusted with precious stones. At intervals, the bridge opened out onto spacious platforms where well-armed soldiers stood guard. None of them recognized Arjuna as he passed. When Arjuna reached the city, he was stunned by its opulence. Symmetrically arranged around the city's center were 16,000 white palaces, one for each of Krishna's 16,000 queens. Each palace was bedecked with gold and jewels, and each rivaled the celestial Mount Meru in its size and opulence. Magnificent temples rose up on all sides, and the sounds of sacred chants could be heard everywhere. Beautiful music filled the air, and billows of fragrant incense wafted on the breeze. Shining chariots and great elephants moved here and there. Attractively dressed citizens strolled about the wide avenues, which were inlaid with priceless emeralds and interspersed with gardens stocked with celestial flowers. In the midst of the delightful gardens, jeweled fountains stood in lotus-filled lakes. Trees bearing blossoms of every color stood along the roadsides. All around the city, a massive fortified wall, a full 100 miles long, rose up from the sea. Arjuna gazed about in wonder as he made his way to the Brahmins' quarters in the city. Krishna had arranged that his friend be given a large house for his residence. He told them that he would inform Balaram of the arrival of a Vaishnava sannyasi, and that Arjuna could expect to soon be invited to Balaram's palace, where he would see Subhadra. Arjuna felt as if he had ascended to Indra's abode in the heavenly planets. The gods were even seen frequenting Dwarka, and it seemed as if its residents were celebrating an never-ending festival. As Krishna had expected, Balaram arranged for Arjuna to be brought to his palace and offered varieties of delicious food. He had his sister, Subhadra, serve the sannyasi so that she might receive his blessings. The princess stole Arjuna's mind away. She was everything he had heard she was. Subhadra was as beautiful as Vishnu's divine consort Lakshmi. With her blue silk garments, gold earrings and ornaments, and long curling black hair, she could capture the hearts of even the celestials. She moved about with grace and poise as she served the ascetic. Arjuna tried not to stare at her as he accepted the golden dishes she placed before him, but the princess caught his glance, and he saw the sparkle. She saw the sparkle in his eyes. She looked more carefully at the sannyasi. He did not resemble the other ascetics Balaram had brought to the house. This ascetic looked more like a prince. Beneath his thin cotton cloth, Subhadra could see his broad and powerful shoulders. As he accepted the dishes she offered, she noticed his long, well-muscled arms, which resembled a pair of 5-hooded serpents. She could see that behind his beard, the young sannyasi was extremely handsome. His dark eyes pierced her, and she felt her heart move. It was obvious that he desired her. Perhaps he was looking for a bride? She knew that Balaram was trying to arrange her marriage to Duryodhana, but the young sage seemed a better prospect than the conceited Kuru prince. Subhadra wondered who this ascetic might be. Over the coming weeks, Balaram invited Arjuna to his palace on numerous occasions. Each time, Subhadra served him, and their attraction for one another grew. One day, in confidence, Krishna spoke with his sister on the subject of her marriage. She told him of her feelings for the strange sannyasi. And Krishna smiled. He asked her how she felt about Duryodhana. The princess's features twisted disdainfully. Then Krishna mentioned Arjuna's name, telling her that the Pandava was desirous of becoming her husband. Indeed, he had come to Dwarka to seek her hand. Subhadra looked at him intently. Suddenly she realized what he was saying. The handsome ascetic was Arjuna. Why had she not guessed? The so-called sannyasi who walked like a powerful lion and spoke with a voice resembling a thundercloud could only be a great ruler. Subhadra was suddenly excited. If only she could become the wife of that famous Kuru hero. But Krishna cautioned her to remain quiet about his identity. If Balaram learned the truth, there would be trouble. Krishna's enjoying all this, right? She should be patient. Arjuna would surely find a way to marry her. It was almost the end of the monsoon season. Balaram invited the sannyasi to his palace for a final visit. Again, Subhadra served him. By glances and smiles, she made her feelings clear to the Pandava. Arjuna's heart pounded. He could hardly eat. He prayed that he would soon get a chance to take the princess as his bride. When the meal was over, Balaram gave gold and jewels to the sannyasi and sent him home. Arjuna left with his mind in turmoil. He had to somehow gain Subhadra's hand. During the last weeks of the rainy season, his mind remained fixed on the princess, not Krishna, but she's Yogamaya. Finally, the rains ended, and it was time for Arjuna to leave Dwarka. Krishna came to see him and told him that there would be a festival on the Raivataka hill, which skirted the main coastline around Dwarka. All of the Yadus would attend. The beautiful Subhadra would also be there. Krishna suggested that this might be the time for which Arjuna had been waiting. Arjuna's eyes lit up as Krishna, sitting next to him on the couch, explained his plan. "Oh, best of men, I do not see any way you can obtain Subhadra other than by kidnapping her from the midst of her friends and relatives. The festival will provide an opportunity for you, as the powerful heroes of the Yadu dynasty will be at ease and not expecting trouble." The festival was to be held in a few days, and Krishna arranged for swift messengers to ride to nearby Indraprastha. Arjuna wanted to obtain Yudhishthira's permission before snatching away Subhadra. Such an act would likely arouse the anger of the mighty Balaram and might even precipitate a fight between the Pandavas and the Yadus. But Krishna told him not to fear. He would pacify Balaram when the time came. I will convince my irascible brother of the propriety and excellence of an alliance with your house, O Partha. You need only take the maiden and make off with her with all speed. When Yudhishthira's permission arrived, Arjuna prepared himself to kidnap the princess. On the day of the festival, Subhadra came out of the city, surrounded by her relatives. All the great personalities of Dwarka were present. King Ugrasena, Akrura, Gada, Sarava, Babru, Satyaki, Uddhava, and many others. And they resembled an assembly of the gods. The Gandharvas also appeared, and they played sweet celestial music as Apsaras danced. Dwarka's citizens came out on their golden chariots and on the backs of great elephants. Above them hovered the celestial cars of the Siddhas and Charanas, uttering auspicious Vedic hymns in praise of Krishna and Balaram, who shone in the midst of the assembly like the sun and the moon. From the sky, the gods showered celestial flowers and played their heavenly instruments. Now it's getting tense. As the evening approached, Arjuna came unnoticed out of the city. He had changed his dress and put on armor. His year of exile was over, and he had cut his hair and resumed his normal appearance. Krishna met him and gave him a chariot drawn by Shaibya and Sugriva, two of Krishna's celestial steeds. As the Yadus sported and enjoyed themselves in the fragrant woodlands on the Raivataka, Arjuna mounted his chariot. Then he saw Subhadra surrounded by her friends and maidservants, standing near a temple of Vishnu. Without delay, Arjuna spurred the horses and rushed toward the princess. Subhadra looked up in surprise as she heard the clatter of the fast-approaching chariot. Holding the reins was Arjuna, with a great bow slung on his back and a sword hanging from his belt. Subhadra's heart leapt. The prince was heading straight for her. In less than a minute he had taken hold of her hand and pulled her onto his chariot. Before anyone else could react, he raced away to the north, back to Indraprastha. As they realized what had happened, the Yadus became incensed. How dare anyone kidnap their princess before their eyes? Who could have been so bold? Some of them said it was Arjuna from Indraprastha. The Yadu warriors ran about in all directions, trying to find their weapons and chariots in Dwarka. The chief officer of the court stood in the central square of the city and blew his golden trumpet. It was a call to arms. A council of war was hastily assembled in the Yadu court. As the ministers and generals quickly took their places in the Sudharma assembly hall, Balaram spoke. His angry voice echoed all around the hall. Why has Arjuna insulted us in this way? Did he not consider us worthy of a peaceful approach? He has stolen Subhadra without even speaking to any of us? Surely this means war. Balaram glared around the assembly with eyes reddened with fury. The thousands of Yadu warriors present rose like so many fires blaze when fed with oil. Bring my armor, fetch my weapons, yoke my chariot, and I shall give a chase to the insolent Pandava. Amid the uproar, only Krishna remained unmoved, seated upon his beautiful, jewel-encrusted throne at the head of the assembly. Seeing this, Balaram again spoke. With his pure white complexion, blue robes, and wildflower garlands, he resembled a white mountain covered with blossoms. His voice again echoed around the hall. Stop! O senseless men! What are you doing while Krishna remains silent? Cease your roaring and let us hear what is on his mind before we act. His words are always our surest guide. Balaram looked across at his brother. O Janardana, Arjuna is your friend, but it appears that he has insulted us. By snatching away my sister, he has placed his foot upon my head. O Govinda, how shall I bear it? I will rid the earth of the Kurus by myself today. I will never brook, B-R-O-O-K, I guess that means bear, an insult from them lightly. The whole assembly erupted again as Balaram spoke, roaring in approval. Krishna only smiled. As the sound died down, he said, I do not feel that Arjuna has insulted us. Indeed, my feelings are that he has enhanced our glory. Partha knows that we would not accept payment or gifts for our princess. What man on earth would sell his child to another? Nor would Arjuna accept the maiden as a gift, as if she were an animal. He has therefore selected the method always favored by powerful heroes. The hall remained silent as Krishna continued to speak. He said, he considered an alliance with the Pandavas, and especially with Arjuna, as proper. Arjuna has been born in the noble Bharata race. He was the son of the illustrious Kunti from their own house. No man on earth was capable of vanquishing Arjuna in battle. He was now proceeding on Krishna's own chariot and would be difficult to check. Subhadra and Arjuna were a good match. Better that they send swift messengers to bring him back in peace and arrange for a proper wedding. That would avoid the disgrace of being defeated by Arjuna and would enhance the alliance forged by the marriage. After all, there was now no question of Subhadra being accepted by another man. Having concluded his speech, Krishna looked around the assembly. Some of the Yadus voiced doubts, but Krishna answered them all expertly. Gradually the mood changed. The Yadu heroes looked at one another in affirmation of Krishna's words. His points were good. Arjuna was the world's greatest warrior, and his dynasty were world emperors. His marriage to Subhadra was the arrangement of providence for the good of the Yadus. They immediately sent messengers after Arjuna. He was brought back and received with honor. The city was decked out with flags and festoons and great ceremony took place. Arjuna accepted Subhadra's hand before the sacred fire with the blessings of the rishis. Then he remained in the city for a few more days. Finally, after taking permission from Balaram and Krishna, he returned home. After a year away, Arjuna longed to see his brothers again and introduce Subhadra to them. Krishna's pastimes. He enjoys, especially with his devotees. I mean, he enjoys with others also, and there's chivalrous talk and so forth, but Balaram's his exact counterpart. How can Balaram do something in opposition to Krishna? So the opposition is apparent only for the pleasure of Krishna. So Krishna can have a nice time doing meeting challenges and making, so it especially when it comes to one's dearmost friends, those things are not difficult. Because ultimately Balaram wouldn't do something other than what Krishna wanted. That's their relationship. Although he's the elder brother, and Krishna was respecting the elder brother's role, whatever Krishna wanted, and it could have played out any number of different ways, but Krishna was enjoying his pastimes. And his dear friend Arjuna marrying Subhadra, which is very nice. Now, one thing I want to... No, a question came up that Shalagram asked, something about what's the frequency of Lord Ramachandra's appearance? Because he heard something. Every few yuga cycles he appears, or something like that. So with little research, and the answer is very clear. There's in Laghu Bhagavatamrita by Rupa Goswami, chapter 3 deals with Leela avatars, and in that chapter that deals with Leela avatars, there's 25 listed, and Rupa Goswami concludes the chapter saying that in this list of 25, they're considered forget the term now. They're considered, they appear once in a day of Brahma. There's some exceptions in that list of Leela avatars. There's 4 exceptions out of the 25. But listed is Ramachandra. And listed is also Krishna. So I've been consulting with some of my scholarly devotee friends, because I heard long ago, and have been repeating ever since I heard it, that Krishna appears in Vrindavan once in a day of Brahma, but the other 999 times he appears but doesn't go to Vrindavan. So there's no pramana, no scriptural evidence to indicate that. Rather, there's this one evidence that's very clear. He and the other 21 appear once during a day of Brahma. So if anybody online or anybody anywhere knows some other reference that what happened to the other 999 Dwarpa Yugas, what happens? And there's some mention, so that in other Dwarpa Yugas, Krishna appears green. Jiva Goswami writes in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. So if anybody knows anything out there, please just separately send it to me so I can helped me in this research. But it's very special because it's only the 28th Yuga cycle of Vaivasvata Manu out of the whole day of Brahma that Krishna appears, according to Laghu Bhagavatamrita. And it's this particular one. And right after him comes Lord Chaitanya. Like, how fortunate. Don't mess up. Recognize our good fortune and receive it with a grateful heart. And the age in which we are situated, Kali Yuga, is very, very much disturbed and disturbing. At the same time, we have such good fortune. So Balaram's appearance day. Some of the mysteries of Krishna and his beloved Balaram. So let's see if there's some thoughts or discussion. It's already 1 hour has passed, 7:30.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for a nice discussion on Lord Balaram. My question is, when we talk about Dashavataras specifically, so first of all, from where did this Dashavatara concept came up? Because we know there are so many incarnations of the Lord. Bhagavatam described the list of avatars. We know like 25 listed there. So from where did this concept of Dashavatara started?
I don't know. The only thing that I know is it's a song by Jayadeva Goswami. But where did he get the 10? I don't know. Maybe from his time it just became Dasavatar. I don't know.
Right. Maybe is he just listing the prominent ones?
Yeah, prominent ones, but why 10? Why not 9 or 8 or 10 or 11 or something? So I don't know other than what I just said. Jayadeva Goswami coined it. Dasavatar Stotra. And what was the basis for that, I don't know. But it certainly is well known and popular, and there are certainly prominent ones. There may be some pramana somewhere that says these 10, I don't know.
Other question related to that is, we say Lord Balaram as one of the incarnation in that Dashavataras.
Yeah.
So Balaram is considered as the Supreme Lord,
Yes.
right? As equal to Lord Krishna, because he is Ansh of Lord Krishna in that
Yeah.
way. So why Balarama is considered at that time when he came with Krishna? Because Balaram came earlier as Lakshmana also, but we don't refer to him at that time along with Lord Ram, but we refer in Dashavatara with Krishna as part of Dashavatara.
There's perhaps some technical reason, but what's evident is Balaram is Krishna's counterpart. He's not an expansion or an avatar. He's his direct counterpart, meaning, so, and Ram is one of his expansions. There's some very technical terminology used by Jiva Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, and the technical terminology is there's 3 out of all the Leela avatars. There's 3 that Shad Aishvarya Purna. They have the fullness of the opulences of the Bhagavan. And that's Nrsingaram and Krishna. And Krishna has the unique position of being the source of them all. And the others, we say, they have all the potencies, but Jiva Goswami gets it a little refined and says they don't display all those potencies, Ram, Nrsinga, and Krishna. Then Krishna has these unique 4, so he displays more than those 2. Balaram is his direct counterpart. It's not the same as Lakshman. Ram is not the same as Krishna. And Lakshman is not the same as Balaram, although they're the same. They're not the same. They're the same and not the same. They're the counterpart of one another. But the fullness is with Krishna, not the same fullness is there with Ram, and similarly with Lakshman. How's that? Anything else? We have one over here. You're our host, so I'm going to expect you to ask something before we leave this evening. You're in the hot seat. Okay.
What are the four that don't appear once in a day of Brahma? Because you said there was 25, and out of those, 21 appear once in a day of Brahma, and then 4 are exceptions to that.
Vamana appears twice. Dhanvantari appears several times. Matsya wait a minute. Let me check. Because I mean, my memory says something, but I'm not sure. I want to rely on my memory. So here we go. Oh, Krishna. Varaha appears twice in this day of Brahma. Matsya appears 14 times at the change of each of the Manus. Vamana appears 3 times in this kalpa, and Dhanvantari appeared twice. So there's the 4. Dhanvantari, Vamana, Matsya, and Varaha. You know, Sweta and Rakta Varaha. Something else in the room? He's still... If you could take your mask off for just a moment, that would help to hear.
Yeah. General question, Maharaj. You mentioned that in Kali Yuga we go through like disturbing times, but we should also relish the moment. So, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I didn't exactly say relish the moment. I said recognize that we're very fortunate. And that's one of the specific things that we're very fortunate. I mean, how long is a day of Brahma? There's a lot of zeros that come at the end of how long his day is. And during this particular Yuga cycle, we're experiencing Lord Krishna's appearance and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. So, you know, the day of Brahma is really long. And I don't know if, you know, the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are understood as the ages pass, or the Chatur Yugas, the four ages of mankind pass into how many times. So the fortune is it's just very fresh. And, you know, the potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence is something we can still receive very readily. I mean, it's not the same as dancing in his kirtan or hearing him discuss Krishna Katha, sitting together with him. So the good fortune, count our blessings. When you receive something that's so valuable, the recognizing what it is and feeling grateful in your heart for having received such a valuable gift. And it's not a material value, it is spiritual value. That's what I meant. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is like when we get up in the morning and and pay obeisances to the deities. So how should we, like, what kind of prayers we should say? What should be, like, I know we have taught certain prayers in this process, like first Guru mantra and then Prabhupada mantra, all that. But it's becoming very mechanical, like doing it over and over every day. So I was like, how to be more prayerful in those prayers?
Okay, those are two questions. Which prayers and how to be more prayerful. But the essence is how to be more prayerful, not which prayers. Because new prayers could also become mechanical. This question is not an uncommon question. And people that don't ask it should be asking it. But even the people that ask it, it's quite common. So, you're in good company. How to move from the head to the heart. What I did in previous time, when somebody, 2 or 3 days ago, somebody asked a question, I provided them with some recordings on that topic from the heart. So you have those, right? Or you have those? Okay, you can forward them to her. But I'll just say a few things. The principle, well, from Bhagavad Gita, 4 types of pious people render devotional service unto me. Chatra vidha bhajante mam, etc. So what happens with those 4 types of people? What you describe is what happens. They want, that thing that they want to some degree has been fulfilled. Thank you very much, see you later, Krishna. Until there's another pinch, and then, you go back because there's a pinch. There's a calamity, something, and then somebody gets real serious again. And then it requires changing the channel from those 4 to a new one. And that new one is, I really want to be in my relationship with Krishna. So that's the change of heart. Now, if you want to understand it more deeply, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Devotional Service, Change of Heart. And Prabhupada uses that phrase multiple times in one purport and then again several. So it's covered by our founder Acharya in Canto 2, Chapter 3. But the essence of it is Rupa Goswami. And the Rupa Goswami essence is, what's the essence of bhakti? Or what's at the heart of bhakti? And you have to enter into what's at the heart of bhakti to go from the head to the heart. And the heart of bhakti is Krishna is to be pleased. That's bhakti. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. So these recordings, along with, there's some PowerPoint presentations to make it graphically clear, that's at the heart of our heart. Just a little sharing. When I was getting really absorbed in this message and preparing the message to get prepared to present it, I was absorbed in the message. I was having lunch outside on a patio, nice sunny day, and on the table where I was seated, there was a little red spider, like really tiny little guy. Like if I hadn't noticed it, I might have squished him because he was really tiny. But there he was, from the lawn, and just got up on the table and was walking around. So, just sharing the experience. In the heart of every living entity, Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches us, Lord Chaitanya teaches us, Krishna Prema is in the heart of the soul. It's in your heart. Krishna Prema, not just like beyond mechanical. Krishna Prema, the mature potential is there, it's just in an immature stage. So you have to nourish the potential. Because in that little red spider, he's not thinking, I want to become Krishna conscious. I don't want to have mechanical sadhana, I want to have the real thing. But the potential is there in the heart of every living entity. And here we are, same as, how fortunate. We've come in contact with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami, and the followers of Rupa Goswami that are teaching us how to go from the head to the heart. And that method, the teaching is there, and the powerful association is there to switch the channel from I want to what does Krishna want, and how can I be in service to Krishna. So, association, sadhu sangha, this is the answer given in Canto 3, Chapter 25. You can read that, Chapter 2, where Devahuti is asking your question, and Kapila Dev answers her question. The whole chapter is in answer to her question. So there's several reference places. Scripture has it's been a cloudy day, and yesterday was like stormy. Today was supposed to rain, but it was, somehow it was sunshiny mostly. So there's all kinds of clouds in the heart. That's the mechanical. It's called, the technical is anartha, but it's compared to clouds. And when there's clouds in the sky, the sun is shining, but the sunshine doesn't go through because the clouds are there. The potency of the bhakti process is there, but there's anarthas in the heart that are blocking the potency of the bhakti process, like clouds block the power of the sun. Anarthas have the power to block the power of bhakti, like clouds have the power to block the light and heat of the sun. As soon as the clouds part, it's hot again. You feel it. And the clouds come. So it's the problem is the anarthas in the heart and the anartha removal. But in order for anartha removal to be effective, you have to understand what the purpose of the practice is that's meant to remove the anarthas. It's not just doing, waving the incense and ringing a bell or making sounds. Those things are to be done, but they can be mechanical. So what's the purpose behind them? According to what Rupa Goswami writes, you don't know the purpose behind them, shadbhir bhaktir vinashati, or neglect them, shadbhir bhaktir vinashati. So what's the purpose? What's the purpose of your life? Different ways of asking the same question. What's the purpose of the bhakti process? The question is, why the mechanical and how to get on the other side of it? But it's just a different way of asking the same question. Why did you begin the bhakti process? So to hit the reset button. why am I doing the bhakti process? And you connect with the answer, and then you have your rekindling bhakti. And taking the association of Srila Prabhupada's transcendental purports and the writings of Rupa Goswami and the elaborations of Jiva Goswami and the writings of Rupa Goswami, and oh, that's why I'm doing the bhakti process. And this is how to... So you're just refining the purpose behind the activity. And then the anartha removal process moves. It takes time because they don't come quickly, they don't go quickly. But when you want to make that pleasing Krishna connection in your heart, at the heart level, and that's already there, it's not finding it somewhere outside and installing it on your hard drive. It's there already. So the hearing process is primarily hearing in the association devotees, hearing in the association of devotees, especially those that their light's on. They heard it and they're moving. And just find those people and associate with those people and hear from those people. Sadhu Sangha. That's chapter 25 of Canto 3. That's Kapila's answer to Devahuti. That's the solution. So for one more. For a visual, supposing you had a fire, a little campfire, and after some time the fire starts to slow down, then it just becomes coals, like embers that are still red, but there's not flame. So what do? One thing you can do is take some tool, bring the embers or the coals closer together, and just go like this. And what happens? Whew. The flame comes again. That's Sadhu Sangha. Come together with persons that are sincere about awakening bhakti. Come close together and do this. That's Shravanam Kirtanam. Fanning the spark, Prabhupada's phrase. Makes a flame. It's good to feel uncomfortable that my spiritual practices have become mechanical. That's a feeling. It's not that, the same feeling that maybe you started with, because that was what the last person asked. When I started, I was way up here. Now I'm way down there. What happened? How do I get back up there? How do I get enthusiastic again instead of mechanical, like now? Different way of saying the same thing. There is a purpose. We've kind of got complacent because the purpose was not enlivened. So we're doing because we're supposed to do. And it's good for us to do, so we do. But we don't want to just keep doing mechanical. That's a good space to be in. Recognize it and then take the steps. I call it Brahminical work. It's different than earning money or, doing stuff in this world. It's a different kind of work. Yes. We have a microphone and he always asks difficult questions.
I have two questions. The follow-up question from Mataji. Why it is that purpose become complacent after a few years?
What's the purpose?
Why the purpose become complacent? Why?
Because their purposes, the original 4 things have now been satisfied Thank you very much, Krishna. See you later. The connection with Krishna was to get those four things, and when to some degree we get those four things, then we slacken. The submission is there because we want, and when the want has been fulfilled, we slacken. That's one of the reasons. It's a common reason.
Sure. Isn't it true for the bhakti also? When you join the
Excuse
bhakti, isn't it true for the sadhaka who is practicing bhakti process?
We're talking about sadhakas. There's not two things we're comparing. She's a sadhaka, and so am I, and so are you.
Is it true for the nishtha devotees, or for
Which ones?
nishtha, the person who is a nishtha level, or
No, they're already at the stage that the anarthas have primarily been removed. There's some residual anarthas remaining.
Okay. And the second question is that in the Adi Leela, it says that spiritual master is a close associate of Srimati Radharani, or a manifested representation of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. It seems like both are same, Maharaj, right?
Well, how can you say Nityananda is Radha and Radha is Nityananda?
Close associate means Ananga Manjari, and our manifested representation is Ananga Manjari.
You're getting really esoteric here. If you're happy thinking like that, that's fine. I don't think that's the intention of what Prabhupada has written.
Then how can we look at that?
It depends on your faith and your realization, how you look at that. So I can share a suggested way, but it's not, the way. Okay? Sure. Just like Lord Balaram is the original spiritual master, Nityananda Ram is the original spiritual master. And so those who are spiritual masters are representatives of Nityananda, or Nityananda Ram, or Balaram. But in the line of Lord Chaitanya, it's Lord Nityananda. In the line of Lord Chaitanya, it's Lord Nityananda. They're representatives of. The spiritual master function is carrying the potency of Nityananda Ram. They're order carriers. They're instrumental personalities of Lord Nityananda. Sure. And Radharani is the giver of service to Krishna. And Radharani has her expansions, one of which is Bhakti Devi. So the spiritual master may give bhakti, authorized by Radharani to give bhakti, or by her expansion Bhakti Devi to give bhakti. So there's a non-one-to-one correlation between the mood of Balaram and Radharani. They're both compassionate, but the mood is not identical mood. There's similarities and there's differences. So there's this mood and there's that mood. That's one way of looking at it. But it's an empowerment descending from those who have the authority from Krishna to give that authority, to give that empowerment to their representatives.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I missed that. It was
Krishna is the source of everything. So Krishna empowers Radha, and Krishna empowers Balaram, or Nityananda Ram, to give his mercy, to distribute his mercy, and then they downline, they franchise out their power to give mercy to others. But the mercy source is Krishna, and they're the distributors of Krishna's mercy in not a non-identical manner. Similar, overlapping, but not identical manner.
Stepping based on the realization of a devotee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly the point that I made at the very beginning. That, how you see that depends upon your realization and your... There's a verse which I could pull out of my computer. I'll do it. Verse 60, because you're a very detailed person, I've learned. So, Brahma Samhita, text 61. I don't see it. Bhaktisiddhanta. Sri Brahma Samhita. Text 61. Yeah. Yadrashi yadrashri shraddha siddhir bhavati tadrashi. Text 61. Yadrashi yadrashi siddha. Or shraddha, excuse me. Is the realization will correspond to the nature of one's faith. Yadrashi yadrashi, says it twice, just as Shraddha, Siddhi, Bhaktisiddhanta's translation is realization, Bhavati, arises, Tadrashi, corresponding. So realization arises corresponding to one's faith. So different persons are going to realize this question you just raised according to their faith. There's nothing wrong with that. It's within the boundaries of Guru Sadhu Shastra. So, does that help?
Yes. It's still deep, but
Huh?
It's still deep, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay. You have something?
Yes, sir.
Please.
So just want to ask that how to take help from Krishna in difficult times.
How to take help from Krishna
In difficult times.
in difficult times?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a nice question. Well, let me ask you: when isn't there a difficult time? Absolutely right. Well, how to take shelter of Krishna? So it's not specific to difficult times, but access to Krishna is made abundantly available through sound. Krishna can be present. That can be. Krishna is present through sound. He's remote, at the same time he's present, like Ishopanishad says. Very far away, very near as well. I mean, he's in our heart, you can't get nearer than that. But to feel his presence, one can feel and tangibly experience his presence through sound. That Krishna's in the heart, for example, can be best accessed through sound. It can be accessed other ways, but it's very difficult without sound. And with sound, it's not snap of the fingers, but we can access through purification the presence of Krishna through sound.
What do you mean by sound?
But what I mean by sound, the Maha Mantra, the sound of Bhagavad Gita, just like her question about what prayers should we recite, That's, sound. Bhagavatam, etc. So spiritual sound. By sound, spiritual sound. I've been meditating on a topic which I haven't had the time to develop yet. But the topic is titled Sound Covers, Sound Liberates. The very final verse, there's a really wonderful devotee in Russia, Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, who has given a 5-part seminar on the very last verse of Vedanta Sutra. And the very last verse of Vedanta Sutra says, sound liberates. Sound liberates. So you can get access to Krishna at any time, good times, bad times, through sound. That's the Vedic process. Shruti, Praman, Shabda, Praman. Cheta, Darpana, Marjanam. Cleansing the heart through sound, through the sound of Krishna's holy name. Now we do, back to her question, we do that with faith initially, but then when we become complacent or mechanical, we're not really tuned into what we're doing. We're doing mechanically. So that you're not getting the full benefit of we're getting benefit. So we should continue to brush our teeth even, how many days do I have to brush my teeth? If for your whole life you brush your teeth. As long as you have teeth, you brush them. And you continue chanting, even if it's mechanical. But, if I'm uncomfortable just, doing mechanical chanting, I want to get to the heart chanting from the heart. So one of the ways to chant from the heart is chant with feeling. And one of the feelings is, I'm chanting mechanically. That's a feeling. So then sound vibration, spiritual sound, can help you get on the other side of the trouble. Whether it's I'm chanting mechanically or somebody said something mean or I stubbed my toe or something. We have a bully for president of the country or, something that irritates you.
Is there any question online?
There are some questions.
Now let's go online.
This question is from I Jun Zung. Will there always fallen souls not go back to spiritual world, or eventually we will all go back? If not, is that means the material world will always exist?
The answer is no and no. Krishna says specifically in Bhagavad Gita, living entities can stay in the material world as long as they like. They don't have to birth after birth. I cast them into demoniac species. There's no obligation from Krishna's side or no obligation from living entities' side to leave this place. Then that was the no. And then the other no is, it's manifest and then withdrawn. And then it's resting period, then again manifest and then withdrawn and then resting period. So it's not always manifest, it's sometimes withdrawn. This material world is temporary. Everything within it, including the world including the whole cosmic manifestation, is temporary. And then it's again manifest in cyclical fashion. Okay? Next question.
From Uttama Bhakta Das Prabhu, is Lord Balaram's giving favor to Duryodhana a way of Lord Krishna's mercy to Duryodhana indirectly?
Well, yes and no. How's that for an answer? Getting Balaram's association in any form or fashion is definitely mercy, and it's a form of Krishna's mercy. The no is, he was offensive to the Pandavas. He was offensive to Krishna. And although he got all this mercy, he misused it. So that's not exactly what mercy is. So that's the no. You have $1 million. Give a fool $1 million. They'll ruin their life. and ultimately, the real gift, the fool isn't going to receive. Duryodhana didn't receive the kindness. Another saying the same thing. The kindness, the mercy that Balaram gave was on the material side. He taught him how to use a club. Great. But his heart was closed to the real benefit that Balaram can give and Krishna can give, because of this strong enmity towards the Pandavas, and which he wouldn't let go of, even in the face of Krishna. So Krishna gave his kindness in his way, and Balaram gave his kindness in his way, and Bhima gave his kindness in his way. Next.
From Sanchari Dasi Mataji. In Vrindavan, do the Gopis of Balaram interact with the Gopis of Krishna, or do they not interact very much?
Well, we don't know how they interact, but they must interact because they're all Gopis. I don't think they have a room over here and you got to stay in that room over there because you're Balaram's Gopis. And there's this boundary wall and you can't cross it. I don't think it's like that.
Also, does he have two groups like Krishna does?
There's no information, but most likely there's variety in amongst his Gopis also.
Question from Chinmay Desai. Hare Krishna, I have found it difficult to get comfortable with the idea of demise and mutilation of Abhimanyu at the war when Krishna would have known this.
Well, when there's nice question. It's not that misfortune comes even to good people, and it's not only misfortune. You can say mutilation, but what was in Krishna's presence? In Krishna's presence, those that were killed achieved liberation. And when misfortune goes to a devotee, sometimes it's meant to inspire those who are protectors of virtue to become more invigorated. Like not the same but similar. Not the same but similar is Narada's advice to Kamsa that he should kill each of the children of Krishna, of Vasudeva. That's Narada. And Narada doesn't do something aside from what Krishna indicates. So why, he had the acharyas give their reason why he did that. There's other reasons and other reasons besides their reasons. Those six they were going to return pronto to their previous position. They descended because of some curse that had come to them. So they were relieved of that curse, and so they were killed. But another purpose was for Krishna to hasten the pastimes of Krishna's appearance, and Krishna then killing Kamsa. So that and then their ultimate liberation of Abhimanyu is the only thing that my thought can contemplate. Now, could he have been relieved of his mortal frame in some other way besides mutilation? Why did Krishna have to select that method, or not select, but authorize that method to hasten? Look what happened when that happened. Jayadratha was finished. And that had, the whole drama had to play out. So Krishna had some purposes. Now, if you or I were to be Krishna, we probably would do something in a different way.
Question from Krishna and Mataji. Because Lord Balaram is an expansion of Krishna and all the Chatavyuhas are expansion of Lord Balaram,
Yeah.
is it that Lord Ram and Lakshman are also expansions of Lord Balaram and not Krishna?
Well, they're expansions of Sankarshan, of the Chaturvyuha. That's my understanding. So ultimately, Krishna is the this verse that Krishnarjuna can go, it's Krishnarjuna? Look at Adi Leela, chapter 2, text 117, where the question that you're raising is the topic that's being discussed, where Krishna Das Kaviraj says, the very next verse is, everything is possible from Krishna. There's nothing impossible or even contradictory. He is the ultimate resolution of all apparent contradictions. So read that section, and I think you'll have an answer to your question.
Question from Pooja Shobha Mataji. What exactly is detachment?
What exactly is detachment?
How can I practice detachment and witness the pain in my life without being affected?
By attachment to Krishna. Real attachment that Krishna defines is attachment to Krishna. And when you have attachment to Krishna, then you can witness the pain in your life and be detached, and not otherwise.
The question continues.
Okay.
Can you please guide me on how to learn to step back in life, to witness it and let things happen?
Yeah, we had just the other day, there was, I think it's for Instagram. I don't even know how the thing works, but there's a seminar series on, the topic is the art of meditation, overcoming negative emotion. And one of the exercises that we did during this little Instagram video session was an exercise of subjectively, not just conceptually, but subjectively experiencing detachment from the mind. And I can describe it, but maybe even better than describing it is the art of meditation, overcoming negative emotion. I will send the links to you, to Rasamrita, and he can send it to her, and she can get the A to Z picture of how to. But it's the spiritual principle is attachment to Krishna, and the Sankhya principle is to understand you, the observer, are different than the mind, the images in the mind, and the emotions connected to the images in the mind. You're the observer, you're different. Knowledge and detachment. That's the Sankhya position. And then there's the Bhakti position, being attached to Krishna. That's a short answer. And then you can go and get the longer answer.
You already gave it, Maharaj.
Okay, he already has it. He'll send it. Good. That's it, online. Anything in the room? Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Maharaj. I was thinking about one more pastime of Lord Balaram, where he was more favorable towards Duryodhana. So we discussed the pastime of Arjuna marrying Subhadra.
Yeah.
But I have heard about another pastime of Abhimanyu marrying the daughter of Balaram. Her name is Vatsala or Shashi Rekha. So Abhimanyu married the daughter of Balaram, and Balaram was more favorable of marrying his daughter to the daughter of Duryodhana, or to the son of Duryodhana. So
Thank you.
So that was another pastime. And question related to that is, at that time, we hear about these marriage relations, like somebody marrying their own cousin.
Yeah.
And in current time, if we hear about that sort of relation, it will be considered very immoral sort of thing, that somebody is in love with his own cousin or getting married with the cousin. So how to understand in context to that time?
I asked this question of someone from South India who married someone who's their cousin. And then they explained to me in a way that I couldn't understand it. But there's a way that it's favorable and a way that it's unfavorable. And I couldn't understand it. This is Vedic. So there's Vedic that's unfavorable and Vedic that's favorable. I don't understand it. There's some rule. And then it probably, I'm guessing, when they explained it, it probably has something to do with genealogy or genes. And some mixture of genes is not good and some mixture is favorable. But, they didn't say that. I was just using my science brain saying that's maybe what's, they didn't speak about mixing of genes. They spoke about this is favorable and that's unfavorable. So, I'm a sannyasi, don't ask me these things. I'm sure there's some rule, and I don't know what the rule is.
Because in North India part of the side, we never hear that sort of thing, that it
Ever.
never happen, right? Ever, yes.
There's no favorable ones
No.
versus unfavorable ones. Because the person I'm speaking about, this is like a modern day person from South India. And they married their somebody. And I was like, what? And they said what they said. That's not favorable, this is favorable. Auspicious, or, And one more?
Yes, Maharaj. If you have time.
Yeah, sure.
That question is a little different from topic. The question is a little different from topic of Lord Balaram.
Yeah, it
it's
sure
about,
was.
It's about Krishna and Radharani.
Ah.
So we hear that Krishna has already married Radharani. There was a marriage arranged by Lord Brahma. And the pastime was when Krishna was as a little baby and he was going with Nand Maharaj.
Yeah.
There was bad weather and Radharani along with some gopis was coming.
Yeah.
Nand Maharaj gave Krishna to Radharani to take him home.
Yes, yes.
And at that time their marriage happened.
Yes.
And Radharani there is described as an elderly gopi. That Radharani was a little elderly than compared to Krishna.
But your question is, how come she's elderly when she was little?
Right.
That's
so
your question?
In that pastime, we hear that Radharani was elder than Krishna. She was elderly gopi. And there is another pastime which describe when Nand Maharaj Yashoda Maiya along with Krishna went to the house of Kritida and
yes.
And that time Radharani was little girl.
Yes.
She was not able to see or anything, and Krishna went,
Yes.
climbed into the
Yes.
and touched her, and she opened her eyes immediately.
Yes. Well, he didn't touch her, he just came to the crib and she
Right.
opened her eyes.
Right. So in that pastime, we hear that Radharani is a very small baby as Krishna.
As Krishna,
So
right.
these two pastimes shows a little contradiction in
Yeah,
terms
you
of
better ask
age.
Dinabandhu about he loves this other story. I mean, he loves that story. He takes us to the place where it happened, and he tells the story. So, write to Dinabandhu and copy me.
Okay.
And he'll it'll take a while to get back to you because he's not like some of us about, we answer emails quickly. But he'll respond.
Sure, I can write. Because this pastime is mentioned in book by Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj also. There is a book by him called...
You could write to him, but I don't know if you'll get an answer. Dinabandhu, for sure. You could write to both of them. See if you get a different answer from both of them.
Sure, man.
And copy me.
Sure.
Just say, Maharaj recommended, so I'm writing to you.
Okay.
That'll add a little strength because they don't know who you are.
Sure, man.
Okay, how we doing? Anything else online or in the room? And that's it.
There is one point I wanted to add. We were talking about Balaram meeting Janak Maharaj.
Yeah.
So we have heard that Janak Maharaj, actually Janak is a post. Anybody who is ruling that kingdom of Mithila, he is called Janak.
Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Perfect answer.
Because Sita's father also, he was called Janak, but his actual name was Shirdhwaj.
Excellent answer. Shiradwaj? Shir like milk?
Direct milk, like kheer, we call as Kheer, Dhwaj. Kheer
Yeah.
Dhwaj or Shirdhwaj.
Shiradwaj.
So his actual name was Shirdhwaj, but he was known as Janak or Videha.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you. That like, whew, I was puzzled. It's right in the Bhagavatam. And then I looked at the commentaries, and they don't make any comment. Like, huh? Okay. Good. Prabhupada ki jai.